warm welcome from Geneva, Switzerland. I'm Rida Sadki from the Geneva Learning Foundation. As you can see, we're 2 minutes and 20 seconds away from kicking off the first information briefing for the Certificate Peer Learning Program on Psychological First Aid in support of children affected by the humanitarian crisis in Ukraine. Every word matter, words matter. We're pleased to be coming together for this information briefing, and really look forward to interacting with those of you who are in our Zoom studio and giving you really all of the information that you need to make two decisions, to understand what is this program and how it can help you, and then to make the decision if you decide to apply for this program. We're giving you all the practical information as well as some of the background. We're now going to start the countdown at the 1 minute and 30 second mark. All right, 1 minute and 15 seconds. You can see that some of the messages from folks in our attendees in our Zoom studio who are either prospective applicants or applicants for this new program, and we're really pleased that you're here. Do introduce yourself if you're connecting via a social media channel like YouTube or LinkedIn or Telegram. Do leave us a message. We're eager to connect with you, and we'll be sharing comments and feedback, and of course questions, because the first primary purpose of this information briefing is to make sure that you fully understand everything you need to know about the program in order to make that decision to apply and to begin peer learning, learning by sharing of experience. All right, we're 5 seconds away. You can count down with us. We like to start with, let's say, shall we say, Swiss punctuality. My name's Rida Sadki. I'm from the Geneva Learning Foundation. You'll be other team members will be introducing themselves as we go. We're eager. We have a lot of information to share with you. Before we start, we do want to make sure that for Ukrainian speakers, that you know there is a language interpretation available and are able to access and use that if you are with us in our Zoom studio. For Ukrainian speakers, there is also a second information briefing which will be led in Ukrainian with, again, simultaneous interpretation provided. Now, the first piece of information I want to share with you is very simple, is what is this about? And that is to explain that this is an initiative funded by the EU's EU for Health program, and this is a collaboration between the International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies, the IFRC, with the Geneva Learning Foundation. The focus is on peer learning opportunities. We'll be explaining exactly what that means, but just in case you have somehow missed it, there is a lot more information, and I invite you to take the time to go through it on the learning.foundation/Ukraine webpage. I also want to acknowledge and greet so many of you who are introducing yourselves in our Zoom studio, and we're looking for, we'll be sharing some of the messages coming in via social media as well. So this information is of course available in both English and Ukrainian. So the address is www.learning.foundation/Ukraine. So we have a packed agenda for this information briefing. You can see here the 10 points that we'll be covering, starting with just explaining what is peer learning, given that this is a peer learning program. We'll very quickly have questions for participants, and we've been, for those of you in the Zoom studio, we've been chatting for the last 30 minutes, so we'll be going to those of you who actually have already spoken to ask those questions. We'll be updating you on who's applied so far, and that's very important because that will give you a sense of who is potentially in this group that will be learning from each other. We will emphasize the selection criteria, what as a participant, as a learner, you will get to do, cover really the key requirements for certification, explain the timeline and structure, and then share 3 other points around opportunities to start peer learning now. So First question, first order of business is just to be clear how we define peer learning, what that actually means. And the main point, the first point, is that most of what we know how to do, the most of that significant learning doesn't happen through formal education, through formal training. It happens primarily by experience. The second point is that learning by experience from your peers has always existed. But in the past, you were limited to the local connections, people in the physical world around you, your close colleagues, or you could travel or call people. But of course, digital technologies are enabling us to defy distance and boundaries in very amazing ways. So we discussed before this briefing about how experience is not expertise. And this is where I'm going to turn to Séverine Giacomi-Vite to ask her if she could summarize very precisely what confusion we want to avoid between experience and expertise. Having experience does not make you an expert. Séverine, I hope you're able to clarify that for us.
Yes, hi Reda. Hello everybody and welcome. Yeah, it's very simple. I mean, we just want to make very clear that the course will not turn you into a mental health professional, and some of you already are mental health professionals, some of you not at all, and that's not the point. So this is not about becoming an expert, but about really enabling all of us to learn from your experience and to learn from each other's experiences. So we'll really discuss cases and learn together from that. So not turning you into an expert, but we believe turning you into a really strong PFA for children provider.
All right, thank you.
Clear enough?
Thank you, Séverine. That's wonderful. For those of you who are interested in education, I share this. I'm just going to share this paper reference if you'd like to know more about the what theory, learning theory, and practice underpins this peer learning program. You're welcome to have a look at this paper. Now we are actually going to turn to you, and this will give you a sense of what to expect in this peer learning program. We'll be asking you questions, asking you to listen, to learn from each other, and also to give and receive feedback. So our first question for the attendees who are here with us in the Zoom studio is, why are you interested in learning from your peers how to better support children affected by the humanitarian crisis in Ukraine? I know that I'm going to turn to Charlotte to go back. Yes, and I believe we're going to go first to Lesia Shevchuk. We're going to apologize constantly for mispronouncing names. Lesia, would love to hear from you. Do not forget to introduce yourself and tell us, why do you want to learn from your peers?
Дуже вам дякую.
Thank you very much. I am Lesa Shevchuk from Ukraine. And to answer your question, I work mainly with adults, but there is a child next to every adult. And with the partners that the Red Cross Ukraine works with, there are those who work with children, those who teach children, and I would like to hear from those who work with children, to hear about their experience, their practical cases, the real situations. And when we hear real situations, everything that we do comes to life and gives us more experience to share with others. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Lesia. So if you do work with children, please do raise your hand if you're with us in our Zoom studio, or if you're following this on the social media channels, leave a comment, or we'd love to hear from you. And why learning from, of course, there is guidance, there are manuals, there are formal trainings. We'd love to hear. So why you are interested in learning from colleagues from all over Europe, because that is what we're going to be doing in this program. So I see two hands raised. Anastasia or Ross, if you'd like to introduce yourself and answer the question on the screen. A warm welcome to you.
Well, yeah, lovely. Hello, everybody. I'm deeply honored to be here with you all today. So I am from Budapest, and I work as a helpline operator for children fleeing Ukrainian war. So I have somewhat of daily experience working with them. And I would love to learn more about my fellow colleagues' experience in other countries rather than Hungary, for example. although we have a system of helpline operators in different countries, that will be extremely helpful as we're trying to create the safest possible approach for children who are in need of psychological help or mental help, or just in need of somebody to talk to about all their troubles.
Anastasia, there is of course a lot of guidance, a lot of documents, a lot of research that you can draw on. What's different for you about actually connecting with a colleague one-to-one, and each person shares the challenges they face, the experience they have, and then try to solve a problem together, a shared problem together? Why is that? Is that special to you? And if so, why? Yes, Anastasia, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I thought I was muted again. Well, definitely, because I do believe every country, as well as every individual and every company that works with people, with children, actually has a special approach and special pool of individuals having very special personal experience with working with children. Thus, it's not only about difference in, let's say, mentality or culture and how to approach children in need, but it is also about experience of other professionals dealing with the same issue. And I would be so much interested in learning how my colleagues, let's say from France or Romania or Spain or any other country, are dealing within their countries, because, as I say, cultures are very different and children can face different challenges based on the country where they are staying.
Thank you very much indeed. Next, we do have a lot of practical information, but we wanted to hear your voices first, because that is what is going to be at the center of this peer learning program. So Alexandra Zorek, please.
Oh, quite well.
Okay, thank you. Don't forget to introduce yourself. And I've got a new question for you. For a challenge that you face, how do you think learning from others can actually help you? So if you can think of a challenge, if you've applied, you may have one already in mind. How do you think learning from others can help you?
Hi all, my name is Alexandra and I work as a trainer and as a supervisor and as a project manager, so a lot of roles I do, but a lot of my work is work with children, Ukrainian children in Poland that live here for longer time or shorter time, and what I do usually is workshops on mental health. So the challenges that we face usually in our work and challenges that we have when we talk during supervisions with our teachers are usually the intercultural problems, because even though that many of you may think that between Ukraine and Poland there are not many differences, we have still our differences, like cultural, and because of the language differences and language problems, miscommunication, there is a lot of behavioral problems with kids, because they are both they experience trauma, and at the same time they are in a different country and they have to face many new challenges, and often this shows up as misbehavior for teachers. And what is very important for us is how to work with that challenge, how to show teachers how they can help those students and not see it as misbehavior, but as an information to them that there are things that they have to do.
Thank you very much indeed. Now, before we go any further, we did want to mark a pause and to thank you for sharing your experience. We just heard two voices where we will hear a lot more in the program, but we wanted to make the point that we're going to share back with you what you told us. For those of you who have already applied in your application, we're going to begin that process today. And this is really a key principle of peer learning for us at the Geneva Learning Foundation. If we are going to ask you to share your experience or answer your questions, the benefit, the purpose, the goal needs to be clear, and we strive to give back as many of the perspectives that are shared with everyone, so that everyone in the community can benefit. Now I'm going to ask Yulia Yuchenko to introduce herself and to share. We're going to put into practice what I just said. Yulia has selected one of the experiences shared by an applicant who, of course, agreed to give her consent for this experience to be shown. And Yulia selected this one. She's going to introduce herself and tell us what's special about this one, what she thinks we can learn from this particular experience. Yulia, a warm welcome.
Hi everyone. I actually don't know which language should I speak, but anyway, my name is Yulia. I am subject matter expert for the Geneva Learning Foundation on psychological first aid for children. And I'm sorry for the background noise. I have to work from the phone. While looking through all the application and stories shared with us, this one took my attention completely, not because it somehow is outstanding, but actually because it's quite a generic and a beautiful example of how PFA training actually can benefit anybody, not only mental health professionals. So if you don't want to read all the story, the case is a child getting distressed because of a rapid and quite unexpected sound, and getting distressed because of his previous experience in Ukraine. So for me, that was an example of how anybody can actually pop into a child in distress and what they can do to comfort children and provide them feeling of safety and calmness. So yeah, that's my favorite from what I've done.
And Yulia, you are going to be leading the Ukrainian language cohort, and there's an upcoming briefing that will be led by you in the Ukrainian language, even though we'll also be offering interpretation. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Of course. So we have the same event, but in Ukrainian as a main language on Friday, 31st of May. So basically the end of next week. And the time would be the same as today. And if you have colleagues who you think might benefit from the program, or who would love to know more about the program, but they're much more comfortable receiving information in Ukrainian, please share the invitation and send them to Geneva Foundation/Ukraine.
Thank you very much indeed, Yulia. All right, we had planned to discuss a second case, but I think for the sake of time, I'm keeping an eye on the clock. We're going to skip to the next item on our agenda, which is really to begin to get a sense of who we are as a community. Right now, some of you have applied, some of you have not, but it's really important. You've heard a few voices today, and so we're going to tell you, I'm going to go very quickly through these slides. Apologies to the interpreters, but we're going to be sharing the slides, and you'll be able to go through them at your leisure to give you a sense of who has applied and what you have told us so far. So just a reminder, this is really for a broad set of very different groups: education professionals, social work professionals, health professionals, National Red Cross staff, and volunteers. So in terms of the applications, you can see on the right-hand side responses for the applicants who applied in the Ukrainian language. I'm going to be focusing on the left-hand side, and you can see that a third of the applicants who applied in English consider themselves to be members of the family of the Ukrainian community. Now, who are the children that you are supporting? So you can see very high numbers because you could select as many items as you want, but you can see obviously children displaced outside Ukraine who arrived more or less than a year ago. The numbers for more than a year are somewhat logically higher. Many one-parent households, but also many children with both parents. Now, because, of course, we are doing this in close collaboration with the International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies, we're working with cooperating with the national societies, with the national Red Crosses in many countries. And you can see 1 in 5 who've applied so far is a Red Cross volunteer. We also have Red Cross staff members all involved in providing support for the Anglophone cohort. Overall, outside of the Red Cross applicants, NGOs make up the majority, a small majority of applicants. We have also education, private sector, UN, government, and so on. Now, for the professional roles, we had a very long list with many different options. We're just showing the top choices. You can see that almost half of applicants so far are, in fact, mental health professionals. Let me just make sure that's spotlighted for everyone. But we also have humanitarians, social workers, and education professionals. In fact, we're going to be reaching out to you, especially if your group is currently underrepresented. Now, in terms of gender, again, here we have more than 4 out of 5 applicants so far who are women. And that is, we have some other information. We won't be sharing information about the countries today, but we will be reaching out to you, especially if we have currently very few applicants from your country. Now, the PFA support needs, we ask you, well, have you needed support in these situations? And you can see at the top how to help a child deal with a painful experience, how to create a sense of safety and calm, and how to encourage a child to stay hopeful. Those are the top 3 needs that you expressed in terms of how you support children. Now, psychological first aid is, we asked you about your experience, and this is, you can see a third of the applicants so far are supporting adults and children. And then we asked you how many of you have formal training to support adults and children, or just to support children, and you can see that's around 44%. So that means more than half of the applicants so far have not had formal training in PFA, and we'll be sharing many really opportunities to do so if that is what you seek. Again, this specific program is focused on learning by the sharing of experience, which is really complementary to formal trainings, guidance, and so on that make up sort of more conventional ways of learning. Now, we also asked you about your most difficult challenge, and you can see here, of course, the impacts of the humanitarian crisis on children, overwhelming needs, limited resources, stigma and misconceptions about mental health. You can see those are all very close, and then a broad range of very different challenges. What's your most important reason to apply? Logically, it's to get better at providing PFA for children. But I think the key point here is to actually, again, repeat that because this is peer learning, it will help you get better at providing PFA, but it is complementary to formal training, and will be offering many resources, tools, and other ways to really get the basics, get the sort of foundational knowledge, and also begin sharing your experience in the best ways possible. So we're going to mark a pause here. I'm going to turn to Charlotte just to ask if there are questions posted in the Q&A. This is really the primary purpose of the briefing, is to make sure that you leave with all your questions answered.
So far, there are no questions, Reda.
Okay, and again, please use the Q&A, not the chat. We see very many introductions, and this is wonderful to see so many professionals, all with a shared purpose of supporting children affected by the humanitarian crisis in Ukraine, connecting in this way. So that is a little bit about who we are. Now we're going to come to more pragmatic considerations if you are an applicant or potential applicant. The invitation to this briefing was sent to everyone who expressed interest on the English language page. So how are applicants going to be selected? The first point is you do not need to be a specialist to be selected. And we really encourage applications from anyone who has experience in supporting the needs of children affected by the crisis in Ukraine. So really it's the experience that is the main, the first criteria that we look at. Then there are more pragmatic considerations such as direct experience, the commitment to actively engage, and then the openness to learn from each other and the willingness to share your own knowledge and experience are all considerations. Of course, the shared commitments around child safeguarding, confidentiality and safety, professional duties and obligations, those are all important as well. And it's a key question in the application. We ask you to confirm that you will honor these commitments. Now, we're also aiming for this inaugural cohort, which is in many ways a pilot for balanced representation. So we'll be looking at geographic location from all over Europe, professional role and area of work, levels of experience with PFA and psychosocial support, but primarily PFA, language and gender. Now, before I go any further, if you are not selected, and we'll go over the calendar together over what the dates are. You should not be disappointed because we will be inviting you to join public events. And then we are following the pilot. The completion of the pilot will be announcing the fall 2024 cohort. And if you applied now, if you are amongst the first applicants, your application is very likely to be prioritized. We also encourage you to follow us on social media because we'll be announcing opportunities, learning opportunities, and other activities through our social media, and encourage you to check your email for experiences, updates, calls to action. Make sure our emails don't end up in spam. If it's too much, then you should definitely unsubscribe. But really the best way is to stay connected with the project is through social media and email. So I'm again going to mark a pause to see if there are any questions here before we go to the next very practical section. All right, and do raise your hand. I see one hand raised. I don't know if that's a leftover hand, as we sometimes say. Yes. All right, so let's...
It's a new hand.
Oh, it is? Okay, and it's gone. All right.
Okay.
All right. So now learning is not about content, not about information. It is actually about what does the learner get to do. And this is what I'm going to try to explain and lay out and really as clearly as I can in the next section so you understand what to expect. First, some key requirements for language is you need to be able to speak and write in either Ukrainian or English. We'll have two separate language cohorts. For IT, you do need to have a reliable internet connection. We'll be explaining some more if you have challenges with that. And we recommend working from a laptop rather than working from your phone. Some people have been able to participate in this type of peer learning program from their phones, but there are some challenges. Now, here are some of the key points from our perspective, from experience with running these programs now for almost a decade. And first of all, we know you're short on time. Whether you're an education, health, or social work professional, especially if you're involved with support to children who can be in difficult circumstances, we know and we understand, and we'll do everything we can to support you and to make sure that you can still successfully complete the program. So you'll see, I hope you'll understand that everything we do is focused on helping you share experience and learn from your colleagues. And this is really, we'll keep in mind that we'll keep our eyes on the goal of strengthening support to children. All right, I see one question that is not in the Q&A, but yes, so the format in the beginning, so it will be online. This is the best way in our view to connect as many people as we can from all over Europe. All right. Now, most tasks can be done at any time that works for you, but there are deadlines. So this is the sort of two-step. One is there's a lot of flexibility in the program, but on the other hand, there are very strict deadlines because, and I'll tell you why, because this is a peer learning program, you are going to be dependent on your fellow learners. They'll be giving feedback to you, and you'll be giving feedback to them in a structured way, which requires us to work together to stay in step with each other. We realize that can be a challenge for some people, and unfortunately, in those cases, it'll probably be very difficult to follow this program. Now, very practically, here are the activities. We'll be meeting and sharing experience. So those are live peer learning sessions. You can see the time requirements here between 2 and 4 hours. Second is, and this is actually the main deliverable in the exercise, is to write a short case study about a time you helped a child or children in distress, and then to analyze that time, that situation. Third is to help 3 colleagues improve their own case studies by reviewing their case studies and giving them feedback. In a very structured way with very tight deadlines. And then the last step in the exercise will be to revisit your experience and revise your own case study. And there you'll use the feedback from your colleagues. Now, if you miss a live session, you will be able to watch the recording, starting with this briefing. And second, here's what to do if you cannot connect. You'll get a link for the recording. So why should you take your time to watch it? It will help you actually get the specific tasks done. We encourage you then to focus on your project, which you can do offline. You don't need an internet connection to write up a case study that is based on your experience. It's something that you lived personally. And then you need to make sure that you can make arrangements to submit your project online and perform peer review. So for those two tasks, you'll need the internet. Again, going to mark a pause here to make sure that to see if there are questions. And yes, if you, I'm just checking here and turning to Charlotte if there are any questions. And Séverine, if I could ask you to respond to any questions that you spotted or any concerns that you saw, that would be wonderful as well. I know Charlotte is having some connectivity challenges, so I'll go straight to Séverine. Séverine, do you see any questions or concerns that you'd like to respond to?
Yeah, no, I just want to react to one concern about the vocabulary used. Someone flagging that we do not have a crisis in Ukraine, we have a war. I mean, we use the term international armed conflict in line with the international humanitarian law. So I hope no one felt offended. Sometimes we refer to the humanitarian crisis in Ukraine because we are dealing with consequences, humanitarian consequences on children. So, I felt it's really important to react to such comments because I know they are very sensitive. And someone is asking about the format of the beginning of the program. We are asked, will it only be online? I think we can say yes, Reda, but over to you to provide details on that, because it will be online, but also offline at a later stage.
Right. So
that?
There's two ways to interpret the question. One is, as you just said, whether you need to be connected to participate. And in that case, the answer is there are two steps where you absolutely need a connection. Everything else you can work offline without a connection. The other question, is there an in-person or physical training where you actually travel to a place and share experience? There, the answer is clearly no. This is a fully online program. However, we have seen and will be making some suggestions for participants who then involve their colleagues, including those who do not have access to the internet or do not have the availability to involve them in their workplaces, and that then happens in person, but that is entirely voluntary. So thank you, Séverine. Key requirements for certification. So first of all, in this program, you will learn what are called competency-based certificates, so really based on the development of a project. So the tangible artifact, or what's left to show that you learned something, will be both the certificate from the Geneva Learning Foundation and the IFRC, but the project that you developed. And because this is only the first step, this first cohort is the inaugural cohort, and there will be other activities which are complementary. So if you participate this time, you'll be able to continue participating and go further. And for each activity that you successfully complete, you will earn, you will go step up in the levels of the certificates that you will earn. Now, if you are new to PFA, and about half of you are, we'll ask you to complete a 20-minute rapid e-learning module before you start, and we'll really encourage you to explore all of the resources and opportunities to learn about psychological first aid that are available. And of course, during the exercise, you'll be interacting, constantly sharing, giving and receiving feedback, sharing experience, listening and learning from the experiences of others, including many experienced PFA for children practitioners. And just to give you a sneak preview. The 20-minute e-learning module will be shared on the Child Hub website, which if you do not know of this website yet, they are, of course, project partners, and we're very pleased to share and recommend highly this website. That is where you will find this e-learning module that is really a primer for those of you who may not yet have been exposed to PFA training, or if you just want to get a refresher, that may be another significant step. So we're talking about the key requirements for certification, and this is one of the key, probably the most important one, is actually to submit your project, so the case study you'll be developing, on time. And again, this is because in peer learning, others depend on you and you depend on them. So imagine if you poured your heart and time and energy and commitment into giving feedback to 3 colleagues, and then you go to find your feedback and you see that the colleagues who were assigned to review your work, one of them didn't have time, the other was on leave, and the other had an emergency come up, and you have no feedback to go on. So this is why the deadlines we will announce far in advance, and so there will be no extensions to those deadlines, because we respect your colleagues and we ask you to respect that principle of peer learning. The next step is a peer review of the projects of 3 colleagues. And again, that needs to be done in a timely manner. And of course, at the end, once you have that peer review feedback, we'll ask you to revisit your experience and revise your own project using peer review feedback, and to submit the revised version on time. Now, remember I said if you don't have a PFA experience, if you're new to PFA, there will be this 20-minute rapid e-learning module. There are many more resources from Red Cross, from national Red Cross societies all over Europe. So whatever country you're in will be, when we say explore how PFA resources can help you, we'll be also sharing how you can access those PFA opportunities, learning opportunities, and training opportunities from participating in Red Cross national societies. So that's the process. It's really, you participate in the live sessions, but the certification requirements are really focused on actually finishing the project. So here I'm going to mark another pause to turn to attendees who are in our Zoom studio, and again would ask you the following question. If you'd like to answer this question, we'd like you to raise your hand so we can unmute your microphone. If your microphone is already unmuted, please go ahead and unmute. The question is the following: can you think of one experience that you would like to think about and write up? So this is the first question we're going to be asking you in the program.
And Reda, while we are waiting to have a first raise hand or unmuted mic, there is a first question in the Q&A.
Okay, all right. So let's go look at that one. Can we get a link to the e-learning? So not yet. The e-learning is being finalized and will be published soon. And of course, you will be able to take this e-learning module whether or not you are accepted into the program. This will be freely available to everyone. Now I see one hand raised from Alex Marcu. So Alex, please do unmute your microphone and do introduce yourself, and then tell us what is the one experience that you'd like to write up in the context of this program. If you're and you're going also, we're going to have some other questions for you as well.
Okay, so I'm Alex. I'm from Romanian Red Cross in Tulcea, at the border with Ukraine. So there was at the start of the war, in like a month after the starting of the war, I once saw like 1,000 kids on a ferry boat, and that was like a moment for me that made me cry. I never cry. I never cry for anything, but that was impossible to get over. And I think that's the experience I want to talk about and write about.
Thank you, Alex. That's very moving. And my guess is that many of the people in the room who just listened to you share that are also reflecting on their own experience in that initial crisis response time for folks in Europe involved in various ways, who found themselves having to provide support on an emergency basis. Marina, would love to hear from you as well. Second hand raised. Do introduce yourself and then tell us, writing up a case study of, could you tell us a little bit about the experience that you would like to think about and write up?
Hello, can I speak Ukrainian?
Yes, please.
Доброго дня усім. Мене звати
Hello, everybody. I am Marina Roznitovska. I am Ukrainian. I currently live in the Netherlands temporarily. I am a psychologist and I work in a mental health program for Ukrainians that is implemented in the Netherlands. I have a lot of experience here in the Netherlands. I was an art therapist and psychologist working in a school, and at the moment I am working as a psychologist. I wanted to share my experience, how we supported Ukrainian children in the schools here in the Netherlands, and the programs and tools that were effective, because individual meetings and working with families produce good results in terms of supporting mental health. And programs I work with offer helplines for families and teenagers, children to access, and this gives them psychological support. So I can share my experience in organizing these helplines and also share my experience as an art therapist. And I also can talk about play games, tools that relieve acute conditions and help communication in the new environment that Ukrainian children have found themselves in. So I will be very glad to talk to colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Marina. A question for you. How does psychological first aid, PFA, fit into this work that you'd like to describe? One of the key questions in writing up the case study will be about that. Have you used PFA? How do you reflect on its use and application in the context of the broader program development that you're describing?
Так, власне, перша психологічна допомога.
Yes, psychological first aid was used twice on this road I described. First was when children arrive at schools and are adapting to new conditions. And obviously they are in an acute state, and to help their adaptation, we and I personally provided PFA, and this is individual meetings and working with a child on a one-to-one basis. We also provide this in our programs. And when Ukrainians come to us online, this is online consulting, online therapy. So both for parents and children. So these are two moments that I can share my experience in, and obviously also the experience I gained on the programs.
Thank you, Marina. One last question for you. As you heard, there are applicants or individuals who've expressed interest who do not have experience with psychological first aid, and are very much willing to gain that experience. As an experienced practitioner, are you interested and willing to share this, what sounds like a very impressive level of experience, and that you have with these participants who may be completely new, completely fresh to the issues you've been dealing with for a long time?
Так, дякую. Це дуже актуальне питання.
Thank you. That is a very relevant question, and I do this in the Netherlands as well. And we organize meetings with organizations that help Ukrainians to share our experience and teach them the skills of PFA. Because the majority of those working in organizations and locations in the so-called shelters are not psychologists. They must be prepared to see the trauma and the situations that Ukrainians arrive with. So intercultural dialogue and learning among those who don't have psychologist training, will enlarge the circle of people who are able to offer PFA. PFA is not a therapy, but it is a support tool. So yes, I would be interested in sharing my experience.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you very much indeed, Marina. I'm marking a pause to see if there are any questions in the Q&A. All right. When will we know if we had been accepted to the program? Will we receive an email? Yes, absolutely. That's actually the next section, is the timeline and structure of the peer learning exercise. I do see in the chat Hamza Hamouye, who says, is the registration link to apply different from the session today? Yes, this is a Zoom session. The application to the program happens on the link that Charlotte has already shared and will be sharing again, so that you can go and it's a bit of a it's a multiple step process, because you have to share your email, prove that you confirm that you want to receive emails from us, and then we send you the email with the link to the application. So many of you I know in the room have been through that process. All right, so on the timeline and structure, we thought actually we probably should put this in the introduction. It's just so you can get those dates and already see, for example, if you're on leave on the 10th of on the 1st of July, then you probably would not want to pursue this program. So let's start with the dates and just to go through them. So there are key dates for applicants and key dates for learners. So individuals who have been accepted into the program. So first of all, the closing deadline for applications is now the 31st of May. It was originally the 17th of May, but we wanted to have the information briefing first. And we also see that many of our partners, starting with the IFRC and National Red Cross Societies, are still spreading the word, as well as you, applicants or potential applicants. You'll see when we get to the practical exercise, we have some suggestions in that regard. So the information briefing in Ukrainian will be led by Yulia. There'll be simultaneous interpretation again. That'll be happening on the 31st of May. The final decision on selection of English language applicants, that's on the 10th of June. So you should receive the letter of acceptance or information about how you can still participate, contribute, benefit from the program in other ways. If you have not been selected for this inaugural cohort, as I said, there are many other activities planned that will be very open. The launch event, the date is to be confirmed, should be the 1st of July. So that's for applicants. Now, for learners, it all starts on the 1st of July and it ends on the 16th of July. So that's the first thing to keep in mind. Check your calendars if you have major commitments, professional or personal. Think about, is it realistic for me to engage in 16 hours of study, 16 hours in which I'm going to have to do some intense work, and hopefully you'll be able to participate in the live sessions. You can still complete the program if you have major impediments to your participation in what we call the discovery or exploration or commencement. You can still complete the program, but you will get a lot more benefit if you participate in those sessions where we'll be sharing experience. Discovery is about discovering our challenges, discovering this community that is forming around supporting children and around psychological first aid. Exploration is focused on problem solving and really working together, putting our heads together, using that collective intelligence to see if by sharing of experience, we could not only enjoy sharing, but also actually find practical solutions that we can take back to work on the after the program or even during the program and actually put to use. The commencement will be the final presentations of learners. Will be presenting their case studies. So that's and we'll be receiving feedback from guides on the side, people with expertise in psychological first aid, as well as fellow participants. And then there will be peer support sessions. We asked you in those in the application those questions. Do you want to do you want to have experience sharing sessions, and then do you actually have time to prioritize that? So we have a good sense. So those will be optional there. That's where people with subject matter expertise will be there as guides on the side. So they may make short presentations, but their focus will be on listening to you, to the case study you're writing up, and sharing their feedback and guidance on your work to help you, to guide you with your work. So any questions there? Let me just check if there are. Yes.
Well, we have a couple of questions in the chat concerning the application, in how to apply in Ukrainian. And then there's also the first question in the Q&A that is asking about the deadline for Ukrainian speaking applicants. And a second question that is if someone wants to switch from the English cohort to the Ukrainian cohort.
Okay.
If they have already applied to join the English,
Thanks, Charlotte. So first of all, when you go to the program page in English, you should see that there is it should say you can access the Ukrainian page via the little link at the top, and so we definitely encourage you, if you want to participate in the Ukrainian cohort, to actually go to the Ukrainian page and request the application there, because that is how you'll get access to the application in Ukrainian. Now, for Nadia Didenko, who probably hasn't done that, because we put up the Ukrainian page a little bit later than the English page, and who's checked English by mistake, if you can send an email to a quick email to us. We wouldn't want you to have to go through the entire application process again, so we'll certainly try to accommodate you. Just as long as there's a few people in that situation, it should be manageable. Thank you very much, Charlotte. Now, that is the practical information. We hope that is sufficient to guide you in making the decision that belongs to you. If you have not applied yet, do I want to apply? Is this something for me? And if I have applied, so in that case, it is really, can I fit this program into my busy schedule? That is why we give you the dates as early as we can, and the time required as precisely as we can. Of course, some people will write up their case study in an hour, and it'll be half a page. Other people will spend much more time. That is also up to you, and it also depends on you to decide how much you want to invest in the program. But just keep in mind that your colleagues will depend on you, and you will depend on them for feedback and for support and for making progress in the exercise. Now, opportunities for applicants to start peer learning now. So you do not need to wait until the 1st of July. The wonderful thing about peer learning is that it can be embedded into our daily life, into our daily work, without creating an additional burden or minimizing that burden. Whereas with conventional training, you need to stop your work in order to go to the training room. And when you come back from the training room, you may struggle then to figure out, how do I take all these wonderful things that I've learned and put them into practice? So here is how you can start learning from experience now. The first one, and this may be a bit of a surprise, is by email. So you're going to start, if you expressed interest in the course, you're going to receive an invitation to receive stories by email focused on a specific challenge in each email. And then you'll find in each email, with each story, a link to share your own reflections and insights. And so we will be reviewing and reading your reflections and insights, and we may select and share with everyone if you agree that they can be shared, so that others can learn from your reflections and insights. Now, everyone who contributes becomes what we call at the Geneva Learning Foundation a contributor, and will receive a formal official letter of merit. That is more important for some people than others, but as we say, we give back, and we recognize that if you take the time to share, then we want to recognize and honor that. And this is especially important if you chose not to share your challenge or experience in the application. In a peer learning program, peer learning is about sharing of experience. So we know there may be many reasons for why you did not share in the initial application, and that is fine. It might be time constraints. It might be you're not sure about the program or comfortable enough to share, but that is really core to what we'll be doing in all of the activities. So of course, someone who says, actually, I don't want to share my experience, unfortunately, then a peer learning program is unlikely to be suitable for you. You don't have to do it right away. Séverine in particular particular in our team, has emphasized how some people may not be ready right away to share. They can listen and learn and maybe actively working, and that is very, very good as well. So look for those emails. Make sure they're not going to your spam. Now, the second way in which you can start your peer learning is by following us on social media. So this is not to promote our social media, but it is because we are going to be sharing some of the experiences for those who gave us consent to share them through our social media. And Charlotte has already shared all of the links so you can share. You don't need to follow us everywhere. Just choose the channels that you're most comfortable with. We've also got Telegram channels set up for announcements in English and Ukrainian. So I'm going to share those as well. If you'd like to already join those announcements channels. So that is not for sharing experience. It's primarily just for pushing out the critical information that you need. So there should be low traffic. We're not going to spam you. So email, social media, including Telegram, are 3 ways in which you're going to be able to join. Now, I think, yeah. Why should you share and how to share? Well, this is the practical exercise I was referring to. So I'm going to go get the links that we need, and we're going to work, and this is something you can do right now. Let me see. Yeah. And here are the links, and I'm going to demonstrate with the first one. So I'm going to go to my browser, and I'm going to click on the LinkedIn link, and I invite you to do this right now. You don't have to sit passively listen to me. This is a practical exercise, and if you, after what you've heard, you feel that this could be of interest and value to your colleagues, then you can follow me in the different steps. Some of you may be like fish in water on social media, but some of you may not have time or inclination for social media. However, this is one of the most simplest ways to share with colleagues. So you can see a number of people have already shared. I'd like to ask you, if you go to the LinkedIn page, to do 3 things. The first is to like. The second is to repost. If you can add a comment, that's great. If you can tag people, that's even better. And of course, the algorithms that determine whether anyone will see the announcement, the information about this program, the invitation to apply, really is dependent on how many people will comment this announcement. So if you believe this program is potentially valuable, not just for you, but for your colleagues, we invite you to share. This will not compromise your chance at being accepted. On the contrary, we'll be asking you to document your dissemination. If you do share with colleagues, you can also use WhatsApp or Telegram and so on. And then we will be recognizing and honoring those who do share and document their dissemination efforts. I'll give another example just with X or Twitter. So you can see here the same thing. Again, repost and comment is what is most likely to help in actually getting the word out. So you have the 4 links in the chat by which you can actually share right now. I'm going to actually go and check. Let's see. I'm going to reload the page and see if anyone has actually done it, just to check, and we'll be able to thank them right away. So Yulia, Hamtar, Mark Thompson, Eunice Nyanka, and Gregory Margesi. All right. And I'm just checking to see. And Amanda from the IFRC has shared, as well as Charlotte and a few others. So this is something you can do right now. Let's check if anyone has done this on what used to be called Twitter. All right. So I see 3 reposts. Let me just see on the post engagements what we've got. Okay. Rupert Wegerif, thank you for sharing, and then we have some likes here as well in IFRC Europe. So this is something you can do right now. Thank you, Marina, who says you've already done this. So the last one of the last points before I tell you about what's coming next, and I'm keeping an eye on the Q&A and the chat as well. We've addressed you as an individual, professional, interested in peer learning. Of course, change happens at the level of the organization. So you may have you have very different employers. Some of you work for government, for private, for profit, non-for-profit, for the Red Cross. In all those cases, if you're interested, if you think that your organization could benefit by becoming a partner, of course, for the National Red Cross, we're working closely with the IFRC. But for non-Red Cross organizations, if you'd like to know, for example, if anyone has applied from your organization, of course, while respecting confidentiality, how your staff can benefit from this program as a group rather than just a few individuals here and there who take the program, and then how to get CME, continuing medical education, or other professional education credit. This is something that we can explore. And thank you for my knowledge of Cyrillic is going to improve, but yes, for the person who just posted, done repost. And please let us know if you have taken the time and care to share with your colleagues. This is really a great way. One click can really help us and actually help your colleagues connect with this program. So so the last part, and I see we're on time, we've got 4 minutes left, is really what happens after this inaugural exercise. So of course, right now, our main concern is getting this inaugural exercise in place and building really the right set of people to really go through this initial cohort together. But this inaugural exercise is part of a continuum, this whole sequential approach of the Geneva Learning Foundation of how professionals like you can move from knowledge to impact, from a situation, a problem, a challenge, an experience, to actually doing something about it and doing it, getting the full benefit of peer learning, of learning from each other through digital networks. Now, this is what we call the full learning cycle. And this is simply a series of exercises, very short, very concise, very to the point, and entirely focused on what matters to you most. You will tell us, that's why we ask you what is your challenge, and then not just developing a case study in the full learning cycle, but actually developing and implementing your own project or micro project, something that makes sense to you in your context. We cannot tell you what that is, but we expect that you would be able to, we will help you make that determination. So that's the announcement for what happens after the inaugural cohort. But of course, right now we're concerned. We want to make sure that you don't leave this briefing with questions that are unanswered. So first, if you can, write your question in the Q&A, and then also raise your hand to speak. We do have a few minutes, I believe. Our team should be able to stay a few minutes over. If people have burning questions or other concerns, let us know if you do in the chat, and of course put the questions themselves into the Q&A. So that's going to turn back to Charlotte. And
so far, no new questions, Reda.
All right. Alexandra has asked for the previous slide. I'm assuming this is a full learning cycle, or I don't know if it's the continuum as well. All right, and of course, so thank you, Amanda, who just sent a message on behalf of the IFRC team. We're looking forward to this collaboration and hearing about participants' experiences and insights in support of children affected by the international armed conflict in Ukraine. Thank you, Reda and TGLF team, with feelings mutual for the IFRC and the other project partners. And we very much appreciate, I'm just going to put some of these messages so you can see each other's messages on the screen. We're really looking forward to learning with you, as Séverine just said. Just making sure if there are any last questions. I think the last question I would like to ask is, if you have decided that this program is for you, then please type yes into the chat. If you realize that this program is not for you, better to realize it now than to realize it once you've started, you've been accepted into the program. All right, it looks like the yeses have it. And there's one thing that you will hear in our programs and events, and including in the inaugural cohort. And we really, really appreciate, I want to go back to that one slide, about giving back and why we do it in this way, and really to offer the very first round of applause for this group. So I'd like to ask you to do something which can feel awkward at first, and that is even if you are alone in front of your computer screen, if you have colleagues who may look at you funny, I'd like to ask you to give yourselves a round of applause because we've already seen some amazing experiences being shared. I would like to, even if it can be a little strange, clapping on your own, know that there are currently, there have been over 100 attendees who participated in this briefing, over 400 who've expressed interest for the English for both cohorts, and we're looking forward to getting to know you. Thank you so much for having participated in this briefing. We look forward to learning with you. Just keeping the studio open just for another minute or so, if you have messages that you'd like to share with each other. And yes, as Séverine did emphasize, briefing led by my colleague Yulia in Ukrainian will be coming your way on the 31st of May. Look for the email invitation to that. Once again, thank you.